Fantasy football is back here on the channel, and we're going to kick it off with the maybe most important position, the quarterbacks, ranking 20 through 11. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into it, we are on all social media platforms. We are now officially on Spotify, which is very exciting. So if you enjoy the audio side of things, go over to Spotify, check us out over there, and of course, be safe. You don't got to watch my YouTube videos when you're driving. But let's kick it off here, 16 through 20, and we'll come back to Cam Ward in a moment. But 16 through 19, that is Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Matt Stafford, and the fan favorite Drake May across the fantasy community this season. All four of those guys have the potential to be top 10, top 8 level guys this year. All four are in great situations with decent weapons around them. All four of these guys are going to be spot starters throughout some point in our seasons. And hey, whether if we grab them at the end of our drafts or in free agency, we're going to be pretty happy with their productions on their spot start weeks. Now, at number 20 is Cam Ward, the rookie, number 1 overall selection, which might be a curse, but maybe third time's the charm. Let me explain. When you look at previous highly drafted quarterbacks over the last couple of years and how they've fared in their rookie seasons in fantasy, well, it's on the top left of your screen. For audio listeners, I will explain it for you here right now. When you look at the 2024 draft class, the highly drafted quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels. Caleb Williams was drafted number 1 overall, was looked at to be a generational quarterback, and he had a loaded offense around him. But he struggled, only 16th overall at quarterback for fantasy football last season. But on the flip side, when you look at the number 2 overall pick, Jayden Daniels, well, we know what he did. He lit the world on fire, was a Cinderella kind of a season. He dominated in the rushing department, passing department, and was 5th for our fantasy lineups. I know if you had him, well, he won you a lot of fantasy championships, right? But maybe last year was just an anomaly. Maybe, you can't really use 1 year as a sample size. So let's go back 2 years. In the 2023 draft class, again, looking at highly drafted quarterbacks, Bryce Young was 1st overall. He finished 23rd. Not a great situation, but still, he was looked at to be a franchise changer. And he didn't really do that for Carolina or for our fantasy lineups for that regard. But at number 2 overall was CJ Stroud. Just like Jayden Daniels, led this team to the playoffs, probably won a lot of fantasy championships, and he finished 11th overall in fantasy 2 years ago. So these rookie quarterbacks can either be really great or they can just be very underwhelming, and that's kind of the range you're going to get. So sure, Cam Ward, if you believe he could be a CJ Stroud or Jayden Daniels level impact in year number 1, you're going to want to draft him in the 10th round as early as possible, because this is a guy that can win you a title this year. But if you think he's going to be kind of on the median, or maybe like a Caleb Williams where he's solid, but he's not going to explode any given week, this is a guy that we're just going to grab at the end of our drafts and hope that we can get that top 5 level quarterback. But ultimately, I'm going to play it safe because he's a rookie. Do I believe he can have that level of an impact like Jayden or Stroud? Maybe. But ultimately, again, I'm going to play it safe. He's a rookie, and that's why I have him at number 20. Let's move into the top 15 here. Numbers 12, 13, and 15 are Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Jordan Love. These are all guys that have great weapons around them. They're all on teams that are looking to make playoff pushes, and they're going to be in a lot of big-time games. So these guys need to perform week in and week out. So, again, these are going to be middling round quarterbacks. If you can't get the elite guys, you're going to be going after Herbert, Stroud, Love to pair and stack with some of the options on these teams' offenses. But they're not really exciting. They're going to be solid, but they just don't have that elite upside, and that's why they're here in kind of the middle of my top 20. But number 14 and number 11, I want to highlight. Number 14, let's kick it off with Caleb Williams. The easiest way to describe my expectations for Caleb Williams this year is due to the Ben Johnson effect. Before Ben Johnson took over the Detroit Lions as that team's offensive coordinator, they were one of the laughing stocks in the league. They were year in and year out one of the worst teams in the league. And not only did Ben Johnson go in there and turn that thing around, well, they were really top dogs, top contenders. If they stayed healthy last year, they could have had him run at it, right? But the year before Ben Johnson took that job, they were 25th in points per game, the Detroit Lions offense, and their quarterback was 24th in total fantasy points for that given season. Now enter Ben Johnson. What did he do in his first year with a team that barely had a decent amount of pieces to be a great offense? Well, they were 5th in points per game, a 20 spot jump from a year difference there. And then Jared Goff with Ben Johnson jumped all the way to 10th on the fantasy quarterback rankings. So that was not even a fluke. Year after that, Ben Johnson and this Detroit Lions offense continued to be aggressive, continued to dominate, and put up great fantasy numbers. I say that now because, well, Ben Johnson is now the coach of the Chicago Bears. He has a generational labeled quarterback in Caleb Williams, a guy that had an okay rookie year, but he's really looking to take that step up to match what Jayden Daniels did just a season ago. This is a guy that has the weapons, he now has the coach, and he has a competent defense where they're going to be in a lot of big-time games in a tough division, and Caleb Williams is going to have to step up and be statistically great. I think this is a guy that does pass 4,000 yards this season to break a Bears record. I think he does have a great year in the passing touchdown department. And we know Caleb Williams, just like Patrick Mahomes, doesn't necessarily rely on his legs, but he can make something happen if he needs to. I like Caleb Williams. I like the additions that he's had around him in this organization, and that's why I have him at number 14. I can easily see this guy finishing inside my top 10 by the time our drafts come around. But speaking about barely on the borderline of top 10, it's Kyler Murray, a guy that last year was 10th in fantasy at the quarterback position, and inconsistent would actually be my word for Kyler Murray last season. Though healthy, which when he's been healthy, perennial top 10, top 5 quarterback in fantasy due to his elite dual threat ability. But this is a guy that last year had some really good weeks, and then some weeks where he had 5, 8, 11 points, and you're just wondering, where's my quarterback's points, right? My team is plummeting and losing weeks because Kyler Murray just decided not to show up. You're going to have those weeks with Kyler Murray. And though this guy, when healthy, has the chance to be a top 5 quarterback, it's really the inconsistency why I have him down at number 11. I love Kyler Murray. I got a bobblehead of him behind me. But ultimately, for our fantasy lineups, especially in leagues where money's on the line, you want consistency at one of the most important positions. And Kyler Murray, though he can be great and lead this team to the playoffs this year, I just don't know if that's going to be the case for my fantasy team. But ultimately, that's going to do it. These rankings are subject to change. So, of course, be easy on me in the comments. We have a long road until our fantasy drafts. So, if you're new to the channel, about every month or so, I update these fantasy rankings, take your guys' feedback, do more research on my own side, and we basically come to a consensus on what is the best list at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So, of course, if you're interested in that, support us down below. And again, support us on all social media platforms. But until tomorrow, stay happy, stay healthy, and let me know what you think in the comments.